Who do we have in the room? Do we have entrepreneurs? Can we have the hands up for the entrepreneurs? We know the answer for the judges. Do we have angel investors in the room? Fantastic. Do we have other VCs who's come to see who's brave enough to do this reverse? We have 2 or 3, which leaves a category of human beings who I can't remember. Isomer Capital invests in entrepreneurs who become VCs. And so what we're doing today is doing a bit of coaching in front of a small audience with some young VCs who are going to be coached by some amazing entrepreneurs. Europe in venture capital world is in a golden age. And that golden age is about there's becoming enough capital for the best entrepreneurs to realize their dreams. And when that happens, VCs have to deliver significantly more than just a check. They have to become part of the solution to build these companies. And sometimes, by the way, that means get the hell out of there and let this amazing entrepreneur get on with it. Other times, in moments of crisis, it's being there, being really supportive. So what I want these guys to do is explain not how much cash they've got, because we love a fund that has 10 million as much as we love one that has 200 million, because that 10 million might be aspiring the next pipe drive, if there ever could be a next pipe drive. Maybe. Shall we see who's in the house from the judging side? Patrick, do you want to say hello and who you are? And
Hello. Patrick Campbell, founder and CEO of a company called Profitwell. Used to be called Price Intelligently. Never change your name. Literally the worst thing you can do as an entrepreneur. We're a company based in Boston. We're completely bootstrapped, about 70 people. We crossed 10 million ARR last year. Yeah, happy to be here and happy to see if there's anyone that we can take money from, I guess. We'll see.
Ragnar.
Hi, I'm Ragnar. I'm serial entrepreneur. I'm co-founder of Pipedrive, but last 2 years spending time just helping founders. Now in Lift99, have done in last 12 months 10 angel investments. So deeply connected in Central Eastern Europe, big believer that this Central Eastern Europe can bring so many more unicorns because we have this so amazing talent pool, but we are missing some elements. So very happy to be here. Maybe we found some great VCs today on the stage.
And the amazing Triin.
Hello, hello. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Nevercode. I'm very excited to be here because usually I do quite many pitching trainings to startuppers and those who have ideas and they want to spread the word to the rest of the world and how to do that. So I'm really looking forward how you're going to carry on your story here on the stage.
So, the rules. There are no rules. But there is some, because we need to be fair and let everybody get a chance. The pitch is 3 minutes long. In theory, the questions are 2 minutes long, but if you will forgive me, I reserve the right, if it's a really interesting dialogue, to be a little bit longer, if not, a little bit shorter. Is that okay with everybody? Super. Let's get started. Jay Jensen of NFT. Give him a big round of applause. Come on, guys.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me here today. My name is Jay Jensen. I am one of the associates at NFT Ventures. I don't know if I am the brave enough soul who was told to come up here, but I definitely got roped into it, and I'm happy to talk about what we do at NFT. So we are based in Stockholm. We have one more office in Helsinki, and what separates NFT is our focus on the fintech vertical. We want to be the #1 growth partner for companies focused on fintech throughout Europe. So that's a little bit how we differentiate. And diving into that a little bit further, we see fintech is a really complicated vertical. We know that finance has a lot of very difficult pieces to it. We know that it's not just an investor that will make it happen, and it's not just the entrepreneur. We need to build a whole ecosystem around that. So we're very active in working with a lot of the companies, such as the banks, the partners that we have like MasterCard, and we try to figure out how we can support the entrepreneurs in a way that's more than money. All of the people in our fund have a background coming from financial services, either in payments or banking, and a lot of former entrepreneurs. So again, we try to bring that talent in-house that will help you build your company and scale it. We are a seed to Series A type investor, so the average ticket size is €1 million. So we want to be the first institutional investor into a company to help you on your growth journey. Currently, we have 47 companies in the portfolio. Again, one of the great things about being a fintech investor that we see is fintech can be a little bit lonely. It's not like you can just tell someone, you know, you're renting a scooter and you know how it works. It's very clear. Sometimes the back-end stuff can be quite complicated. So we've seen that having a portfolio within fintech, a lot of the companies are able to work together, support each other. Some are able to offer certain products and services across the portfolio. So we do a lot to try to build the portfolio strength in collaboration between them. So we also, I'll just point out, NFT is fintech focused, but we like to be broad across fintech, so everything from lending, but also including insurtech, property tech, and sometimes in the areas of reg tech. We don't have a Baltic investment on the case yet, and we've very much started to look in this area, and we like what we see. And last thing I'll touch on is the Lighthouse Development Program, which we have a booth out here, touching on how we try to build out the ecosystem. This is a program that we launched together with MasterCard. We've now worked with over 30 fintech startups to bring them together, explore partnership and collaboration opportunities with some of the biggest banks and players in the financial markets. It's something we try to do to build the ecosystem around finance in the Nordic and Baltics. So I believe that's about my time. Thank you very much for having us. I'll be at the booth all day and happy to meet with any startups or other investors.
Fantastic. Great. Any Baltic fintech cases that could be the first investment in the audience?
Great. Well,
there's one. Okay, there's your one. That's done. Judges.
So, why are you there?
Why am I personally there?
Yeah.
Well,
good question.
I absolutely love working with startups. I have a background in finance as well, and this was a great place for me to come in, and I like that we get to be operational, so I work a lot with the companies, not just the ones that we've invested in, but the ones in the different programs that we get to meet. So getting to be on the ground and helping them actually build some of their business and work on the strategy pieces and all of this, I think is just absolutely fascinating. And then to be able to watch some of the companies start to take shape is very rewarding. So it's a long game, but it's really enjoyable.
What are you doing right now to help the company that's struggling the most in your portfolio?
That's a good question. There's obviously always struggle cases. I think definitely the problem that happens the quickest is you run out of money.
Let's go more specific.
Okay.
Yeah, like
so
pick the one. You don't have to tell us who they are, but like, what are you guys doing? It might not be you. It might be your whole team.
Yeah. So there was a company that we had in the portfolio that basically, as they pivoted, ran into a regulatory issue, and to get a different license, they were going to need more capital. Obviously, because of the pivot, they didn't have the capital at the exact moment. It wasn't a very good follow-on investment criteria as far as seeing the growth that you would like to see. But we actually co-signed a loan for them and helped them get a deal. And because we bring in a lot of partners on the legal side as well, they were able to basically forego a lot of the fees that they would normally charge until the next funding round. So I think that's the sort of stuff that we try to do for our companies.
And I will follow up with that. So what is your advice if you see some company really struggling and you try to help them? What is the right moment to say, this is failure, go home?
Great question. Great question. Great question.
Well, I think it comes down to if you have the person that's passionate and still has the energy to carry on, then of course there's always opportunities. So maybe the exact business model or the thing that they're chasing or pursuing isn't the right moment anymore. And I mean, that's very tricky to gauge when that product market fit is there. But if you're struggling with retention and not seeing growth, then clearly something is wrong. So you need to find what pieces of the company were working, if there's a possibility to move it to that sector. And if you can't and you still have some energy and some money in the bank, then let's talk about where you could go, what you have built in the tech stack, and maybe what market opportunities exist.
Fantastic. I think it's called failing fast and cheaply.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great.
Good job.
Thanks for having me.
We now have Daisy from Backed VC from the UK, I believe.
Hello. Hi. So I get incredibly excited when I talk about what we do, so I'm going to try to keep to time. But if I don't, be kind. It turns out it is much easier to critique other people's pitches than it is to give your own. But we're backed. Our purpose is pretty simple. It's relatively selfish. We want an amazing future. We don't necessarily know how to build it. We don't even know what it looks like. So we try and find the people that we reckon have it in them to build a future that we want to share. And when we do, like Chris pointed out, we have to give them more than capital. We have to support them on that journey. And our idea of what is most impactful is founder strength. We think that's the difference between companies that make it and companies that don't, is how emotionally intelligent, how adept, how resilient, how gritful their leaders are and their teams are. So we take an incredibly human-centered approach. But not only that, we're very data-driven and very scalable in the way that we try to do this, because we think most VCs are well-intentioned in wanting to help the companies they've backed. The problem is they don't use the same tools they encourage their companies to do in rolling out solutions. But for us, we're data nerds. We like research. We spent the last year doing extensive founder research into exactly what the problems are that most incapacitate founders in their journey. This is the stuff that isn't surprising to any of you who are running your own journeys. It is the emotional strain of what's going on. It's leadership. It's finding the right teams and scaling them and supporting them. And then we worked with third-party founders to come up with productized solutions so that it's not just, we'll help you one-on-one. Our small team of 6 people will be best friends with all 50 of you and support you. It's coming up with tools that we know that we can rely on to do the job. And I can talk more about what those tools are, but I don't think I have the time. So what's interesting, though, is when you look at community as a lens and human-centered approach as a lens, and when you also look at systems design, and you start to realize that you can apply it to much more than just how you support your founders when they're already part of your portfolio. You can start to think about how you source in the first place, how you could, carry out your due diligence, and how being human-centered and really process and systems driven can support that. So this is how we source these days. We grow and we leverage a vast community of people around Europe. We support them and invest in them so that in turn, they will help us source talent for our portfolio companies. They will help us source deals that are interesting and off the beaten track that maybe other people aren't looking at right now because they're all looking at the same EF portfolio batch that came out this year. And then they also help us create content, which for us is really important because we genuinely believe that long-term brand is what makes you defensible as a seed stage. It's not like it's especially complicated or patent protected how you give money to people. And finally, we think about how we can reorient due diligence. How can we make the way in which we see companies, meet them, talk to them, and take them through the entire meeting process fairer, more honest, and also just laden with feedback so that there's never any situation where we just ghost you randomly. And then internally, we run our organization like the way we tell our startups to run, efficiently, cross-functionally, and also we have great values, and we're really pretty. And that's time.
Great job, Daisy. Ragnar.
Yeah. Wow, I'm super impressed because first of all, I saw on this last slides you have 4 ladies and 2 guys.
I know.
So, and this is my question now, like for you, because it's super impressive actually. This tech presentation what you just showed. So you have research data, and so what is your own take? What should VCs and what is your company personally doing to bring more diversity? So that exactly we will have more diverse founders who actually will receive funding. What's your take on that?
So I think not enough is being done. Obviously, I'm incredibly biased. But I also think that's true. So one of the ways that we're trying to change that is we think we need to switch from this narrative of staying across a vast ocean and saying, you're welcome, there's no barriers, come whenever you want. And then on the other side, they're like, but what are we supposed to do with this giant body of water between us and you? And we think the only real bridges that are effective are community ones. You have to find someone that is in between you and that person who feels they are a world away, and you get them to bring the other person over. And that's what our Scout program is partially about. We find the people who, through just grit on their own, have managed to rise despite being, black or disabled or lesbian or any other of the minority groups that we generally don't, we haven't built the system of business around. And we ask them to in turn source us the kind of founders from their communities or from underrepresented communities that they have access to and bring them over. So we are very impressed with how it's going so far, and we're really excited for how much of that will change. But I think ultimately the challenge for the ecosystem is to do more and talk less. If you really genuinely care about diversity, hire more diverse people, do training to counter your own unconscious biases that mean that you picture leadership as a white man in a suit and not anything else. But more doing and less talking about diversity is what we're really excited about.
Cool, very cool. Patrick, Triin?
So a little pitch inception here. Pick one of your portfolio companies, your favorite, your not favorite, whoever it is, and pitch them to us.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, we love Hutch.
In 5
Hutch is one of our
seconds.
gaming companies. They're doing extraordinarily well. In fact, they're set to raise so much revenue, they may never have to raise another round again, which is exciting. But what we really love about Hutch is that 2 of the companies that are interested in acquiring them have both explicitly talked about their culture and said, we've never seen this kind of culture before, where people will take a pay cut so they can work with you, where people seem to be genuinely happy across all of the different teams, and we don't understand why it's happening. And Hutch is proof that this isn't a nice to have. It's not that it's cool that we're doing workshops around leadership, et cetera. It's that it pays off, that companies genuinely work better, and they do return the fund, if we're going to bring it back to that.
A real quick one from you, Triin?
Well, I think it will be a long answer, so I will skip this one.
We can talk about it later. We're hug friends now, so we're good.
Super, well done, fantastic.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson from Terra VC, our local boy in town. Is that right?
Kind of local.
Kind of.
Hi, I'm Erik from Terra Ventures. I'm a venture partner based in California.
Right, excellent, that local.
So I am the U.S. office. I used to live here. I used to be local. So Terra Ventures, we've been around Tallinn for some time. We have offices in Estonia, in Finland, and like I mentioned earlier, I am in California. We're actively investing from our second fund, and our sweet spot's around 500,000 initial investment, with plenty of room for follow-ons. We have a core team of 6 people. We have extensive experience from the management side, from the fundraising side. We've been entrepreneurs. We've been managing portfolios. We've been making investments. We have a proven track record, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And we've definitely added value to our portfolio companies. So our Fund 1 portfolio, I think you'll see some names that you will recognize. The portfolio companies that we've invested in have gone on to raise over 150 million from a much smaller fund. Maniz, Cleveron are 2 companies that we invested at the seed stage. In fact, we led all the seed rounds in our Fund 1 portfolio. In fact, Maniz was actually a PowerPoint when we first met them, and we've been along on the journey, and it's been a great time. Realize, Linguist, 2 other great companies we found quite young and early, Jabatical and Scoro, companies that you've seen talk here today. Where we're at right now is we've actively launched Fund 2. The first investment we actually made in Los Angeles to a team with 1 American and 2 Estonians. They are a licensing marketplace and CRM and workflow tool. It's a great opportunity to be in that space, and LA is the right market for it, and we just timed this deal perfectly. We're focused on a region, like most funds in Europe, but we have a global perspective. So we invest in Scandinavia, the Baltics, Poland, and Czech Republic, but our thesis in our fund is to actually get founders who are ready to attack the global market from day one. So Brainbase, with 2 Estonians living in Los Angeles, was a perfect deal for us to lead. Another thing we do differently is we actually take our portfolio offline, we take our network offline, and we do events. So we started a series called the Summit Summit, which is a ski trip in California. It's a thermal ice tub trip in Iceland, and it's a sailing trip in Greece. And what we do is we invite 50 to 75 people, investors, entrepreneurs, connectors, and we bring everyone together for 3 really fun days, and we let everyone do business in an unconference setting. So why Terra Ventures? We have a proven track record, we have a strong team, we have a global perspective, and we're here to help you. We have your best interests at heart because together we all win. How much time do we have? 14 seconds. Some tips from Terra Ventures. Come in, be concise. If you can get a warm introduction from someone, come to us via that person. Also, have a global mindset. We hear a lot of ideas that are local. We want companies that can compete globally from day one. If you have any questions, Erik at Terra VC. Thank you.
My question is, the fund is relatively new, right? Second fund now. So what has been like the hardest problem or hardest moment in this period of being for your fund?
The fundraising process is interesting. The hardest problem, you may have known us as SmartCap previously, so we actually have a new brand. So in many ways, we're starting over. But it's just personally for me, being in California. So I'm a one-person team in California, building out partnerships, looking at deal flow. It's interesting to find European companies who are already based in California and talking to them, and then saying, hey, we have this fund in Estonia called Terra Ventures, let's talk. But it's been a really fun journey.
So even this new fund is it's new fund. Can you share with us, because we know mathematically more than half VC-backed companies will fail. That's mathematics, you just can't compete with that. Can you share us one case when it was failure, and what was your way how to help founders to get over that and not burning out?
That is a very good question. I think you have to just, like, you're smiling, like you knew what you were gonna ask ahead of time. One way to do it is just to sit down and have a beer with the founder, talk about their problems. I think many founders have a lot on their plate. In fact, I know many founders have a lot on their plate. And if you can pinpoint and specifically target the biggest problems that they're facing and the biggest challenges that they have, and just work backwards with them, I think a simple conversation goes a long way. And you can't necessarily flip burnout. I think if a founder's already burnt out, you're in a tough position. But you can avoid burnout in many different ways.
What percentage of cold emails did you answer last month, and why was that number so low, or why is it so high?
Good question, great question.
Wow. No, that's a great question as well. Cold emails, I probably got 20 cold emails and probably answered maybe half of them. I've been traveling quite a bit, so I'm going to use that as an excuse. But that's why I mentioned in the tip slide, if you have someone that can make a warm introduction, it goes a long way. If someone says, hey, Patrick, can you introduce us to Tera? This would be great. I mean, LinkedIn spam, LinkedIn real messages, it's all really difficult. So it's a problem we all face.
I've got one question for you. I mean, I think he gets 10 out of 10 for honesty. I think that was a really reasonably honest response. With so much to invest in Europe, what the hell are you doing in Silicon Valley?
I'm not in Silicon Valley. I'm in Los Angeles.
Same. Well, okay. Well, good answer. Los Angeles.
Oh, was that the question?
Yes.
I mean, it's great. I come back last year, so I did my taxes.
From a Terra Ventures point of view, from investing in stuff, why not stick to Europe?
So it's interesting. We can be in Europe. We are in Europe. But a lot of what we want to do is we're from Estonia. We are successful because we have born global startups here. So we've been successful with Maniz, not us with TransferWise, but companies moving to the UK from day one and being these global players. We want to bring companies from our region, our founders from our region, okay, and open up those markets.
Cool, great, thanks. Super. Well, we now have Bao from APX.
Hi. So my name is Bao. I'm from APX. I'm here to tell you about APX. So does this work? Yes. Yep. APX, we're an early stage VC based in Berlin with a tailor-made program. We believe that at such an early stage, it's basically about 4 things. It's about the team, the idea, the network, and the market. So that's why we invest in strong founding teams with digital, scalable ideas, and we invest across all industries. We also invest in very, very early stage startups. When we say early stage, we mean typically our sweet spot is pre-MVP, MVP, pre-revenue basically. The startups are trying to figure out and nail product market fit. These are a couple of our investment focus, but we don't just do like mobility or with media or just these six, just an idea. When I meet a startup, I always ask them to start with, what's the problem that you're solving? Well, the problem that we're solving over here is that we help startups build their business the right way and scale so that they can get even higher follow-on investments. The way that we do that is by giving us 5% of equity, we're creating shortcuts. Shortcuts to know-how. Our program is tailor-made, and unlike other accelerators, we don't do like this batch system. So you come in, you have like school classes every day or anything like that. You come in the first week, you sit down with our program manager, Karin, and you figure out within our 20+ workshop, what is the best workshops for you, and what is the right frequency that you need. We also have 2 venture developers that sits in-house. It's kind of like this internal consultancy that are there for you. These are the 6 dimensions of investment readiness that they focus on. And we also work on this 3x, 10x principle. So just to give you an idea in terms of our philosophy, we know that as a founder, the more scarce thing that you have is not actually money, it's time. So what's the best way to build the company? In our way is you focus on 3 key areas and you 10 times that. Here's a big part of our network is our mentors. Here's just an example of a couple, 6 of them. Fun fact, Ramsey, the CTO of IM, actually introduced the co-founders of N26 to their own investors. Another way that we create shortcuts is to visibility and credibility. One way that we do this, for example, is that during our investment dinners, we actually have endorsers sitting with you while you're meeting with the investors. By the way, Dogo, this company, is actually 2 Lithuanian co-founders and 1 Estonian co-founder. Here's another story. One of our portfolio companies, Hug a Pet, what they do is they bring pet healthcare to your door. Ever since they joined APX, they didn't even need to run after vets to sign up on their platform anymore. The vets were running after them. And of course, what's better than fundraising? Customer money. And that's one of the things that we do as well. We have helped some of our portfolio companies, like Sharpist, for example, land one of their biggest major clients. Another one, for example, Remote More, we give them access to an event that allowed them to get their other customer. Of course, we invest 50,000 euros ourselves. We don't do strategic investment, only venture case investments. We provide industry standard APX investment documents that allow you for smooth follow-on investments. But don't take it from me. You can just talk directly to our startups. Since March 2018, we invested in 29 other startups. This is an example of what they would say.
Okay, let's go to questions.
Yeah.
So the company that's doing either worse, well, just the company who's done the worst in your portfolio or that you've ever worked with, what would they say about you and your fund?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So you just showed us someone who was really, really happy with you,
Yep.
Which is cool. But the person who's maybe had the like worst, not experience, but like their company tanked, they weren't able to get next funding, like they just didn't do really, really well. What would they say about you as an investor, as like a mentor, advisor, et cetera?
That's a good question. Actually, fun fact, the companies that graduate from the tailor-made program within 6 months, they raise on average 200 to 500K. And the ones who are struggling the more, actually the cases that happen is because it was internal, like they had co-founders that left, and that's not something that's actually out of our power. What we do is we try to mediate, we try to be there for them and support them. In this case, it's actually literally emotionally, because when you have a co-founder that leaves, and when you're investing at such an early stage, these are the things that happens.
Fantastic.
Okay, so you have been an entrepreneur yourself, right? Before joining the dark side. So why did you go there?
How did you know that? You
I read your bio. Did my homework.
The reason is because actually it's quite personal. I was traveling around the world for 15 months, discovered Berlin along the way, and I tried to reboot my business over there. It wasn't a venture case business, it was a digital marketing agency. And I failed because I don't speak German. I moved to Germany without any type of friends, family, connection, potential clients or anything like that. But I love the city so much and I find it so inspiring. I think it's a really cool city. So I just wanted to live my Berlin life. And along the way, I think that just organically, I actually started to get this job because I gave some advice for free. So I was just about providing value. And then when APX was founded, they reached out to me, and then that's why I joined them. It gives me an opportunity to actually speak with the founders. And I feel that as an entrepreneur myself, I understand the highs and the lows of like the hardship that goes through that and the mental grind.
Thank you so much. Great job. Well done. Joseph Wei from Skychi Ventures. Did I say that right, Joseph?
Yes.
Oh, great.
I don't have slides.
You don't need slides. Just
I don't
you,
need
my friend.
slides.
Just you.
So I'm one of the exception. I'm not a young guy, so I'm actually more closer to
Hey,
Chris.
we're both young. It's just
Yes.
relative, right?
Young at heart. So we've been through a few cycles. So unlike Terry, who's from LA, I'm from Silicon Valley. I lived there since 1996. I used to live in Boston for 20 years. I went to high school there. I originally was born in Hong Kong, so most of life actually happened in the U.S. So unfortunately, I started traveling before I accepted to make a reverse pitch, so I didn't really have time to prepare. But if you want to check out Skychi Ventures, you can just go to www.skychi.ventures. We have a lot of the portfolio company, the general partners, my background, it's all on the website, so don't need to recreate slides. Why am I here? This is my second time to Estonia. The first time I was here was about a year and a half ago, actually with a different conference called the Startup Day in Tartu. And I was advising a startup actually from, the CEO actually is a graduate student from University of Tartu, and got me interested. Hey, very interesting country, actually more advanced, because Estonia already the government adopted the blockchain for all the filing, and they told me, at the time I quoted, oh yeah, I think your Madam President actually came to San Francisco 3 years ago, and she gave us stats about being in Estonia can file the taxes in 5 minutes. So I quoted 5 minutes, and then when I was here 18 months ago, it's no, that's not correct, it's now 3 minutes. We just finished our tax season, April 15, so I don't know how many people...
Should we just talk a bit about your fund and what you do?
Yep, it'll get to the fund, because
you have just about a minute left, so
yeah.
Sorry.
So Skychi actually, we raised 3 rounds. We started in 2012, 3 rounds of funding, all raised in China. So the last round of funding, it's about $1 billion RMB, which is equivalent to about 120 million euro. We focus on the intersection between artificial intelligence and IoT devices. So the general partners and my background, she used to head up HP Ventures. His name is Ray Wu, and Cisco Ventures. And I head up NEC PC Group, which used to ship tens of millions of PCs a year. So when hardware company first startup company is saying, oh, I need you to help me to bring me to China to do hardware manufacturing. I got PO for 10,000 units. That's not volume. I mean, we ship tens of millions a year. That's volume. So, and then a lot of the general impression is China manufacturers sometimes they don't focus on quality. But that I asked how when you have an iPhone, look in the back of the iPhone, it's made in China. So why is high quality? Because Apple ships 400 million phones a year. I got 11 seconds. Yep. So in terms of why I'm here is really to learn a little bit more, because in Silicon Valley, as many of you know, the valuation of startup just went crazy. So I think there's more opportunity to look here.
So you can invest in companies in Estonia?
Oh, not yet. We're in the process of closing a US dollar fund, because since 2017, the China government actually limited the outflow of Chinese dollars outside China for investment. But if companies are looking for help to go into China for manufacturing or market expansion, we can definitely help you.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so I'm looking at your portfolio, and it seems that it is mainly connected with China, for the investment that I understand. So please tell us, your favorite founder from your portfolio, and describe this person. What are the strengths he has, and what are the weaknesses he has?
So you asked me to pick who's my best boy or girl.
favorite.
But so let me put it this way. So under the portfolio, actually, it's not a Skychi investment. It's through my previous venture. It's an incubator called Lab360. We invested in a company that's public information now. It's called Silk Labs. It was acquired. It's an AI company acquired by Apple. And the founding team actually were the ex-Mozilla Firefox OS team. So the CTO of that team basically came up with this idea that they can build a next generation of home monitoring system using artificial intelligence so they can distinguish breaking of a glass versus breaking of a window. And they can also do many other things. 3 years, and they were acquired. It was a successful exit.
Great. Okay. Go ahead, Patrick.
We're based in Boston, so welcome. Question for you here. If we didn't deploy a single cent of your investment, how would you still impact our growth rate? Like, how much would you impact our growth rate if we didn't invest or didn't deploy a single cent of what you invested?
Well, so their money, so a lot of people, and that helps, but there's also the time and effort of the partners and the mentors in our network. I think that's sometimes more important. I can give you another example, which is a startup. Actually, it's more on the Lab360 because I started that in 2014, so I have a lot more history with Lab360 startups. So the founding team actually is a startup, you can Google it, called LucidCam. LucidCam. They built a 3D VR camera. The CEO, Han Jin, is Forbes 30 under 30, so graduate of Skydeck, so very credible. We took them in. But when they were developing the hardware platform, actually, it's only for hardware development. It's not for building products. So when they raised some money on Indiegogo and asked for our help to take it into production, so we actually gave them very strong advice to change the architecture and also line it up with a manufacturer called Wistron, and also Wistron invested $1 million into helping that company develop the product.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot. That's great. We now have Campbell from the famous Notion VC. I talked about entrepreneurs becoming VCs. Anyone remember Message Labs? These founders created his venture fund.
Not me personally, the founders.
I just said the founders created your venture fund. Please.
So yeah, my name's Cam, and I'm with Notion Capital. We're Europe's largest B2B SaaS and enterprise tech-focused investor, predominantly investing at Series A stage. I haven't prepared any slides because usually when we meet entrepreneurs for the first time, we don't look at the deck, we just look at the person on the other side of the table, and I kind of wanted to reflect that. We invest in enterprise tech companies of the future, trying to solve some of the biggest problems faced by businesses out there and disrupting entire industries in the process. The founders we invest in are smart, diverse insiders to a massive problem, but with an outsider's perspective and objectivity. They have the leadership skills, the growth mindset, and the resilience required to commit and build a very big business, and that's what we want to help them win. We're entrepreneurs first, as Chris mentioned, and investors second. Pretty much everyone on the investment team built a business in the past or worked in very early stage companies. The founders of Notion built a company called Message Labs that they successfully exited back in 2008 to Symantec for $700 million cash. And the day after that, they announced Notion. So very ambitious. It took them 8 years to develop Message Labs from 0 to $150 million in ARR, and across 600 employees, 20,000 customers, and 10 million end users. So they really have deep domain expertise on how to build category-leading companies, and that's what we try to help businesses with. All of our companies are unique, but also they share very similar DNA of being in the B2B space, so we can help them collectively and individually with all the key priorities. We have an 8-people value-add team, which helps with key challenges such as finding game-changing talent, driving collaboration within our portfolio, and creating high-performing organizations. 60 companies in our portfolio so far, all B2B, SaaS, and enterprise tech. That's what we do. That's all we know. Currently investing out of a third venture fund, so we've been around, and we also have a growth fund attached to that, so we can continue to support the business after Series A through later growth stages. And we're very passionate about providing founders with a unique experience, kind of creating value for everyone involved, and then inspiring other founders to join our movement in the future. So we'd love to learn about your businesses after, and happy to take questions.
Okay, good for you. You get a point for being ahead of time. Triin. Sorry. Someone else.
So what is your, you have been entrepreneur, as I see you founded one startup which today is not working anymore, as I understand.
So actually the first startup I founded is still around. It employs 20 people, and my business partner has a very nice lifestyle business out of it. It's on around 2 million in ARR, so actually never reached venture scale. So I sold my shares in it and moved on.
Okay. So my question is, what is your own take? When should VC step in and replace founder as a CEO?
Sorry?
What is your take? What is the situation when VC should go in and change the CEO and hire outside CEO replacing a founder?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
So we actually have been through a couple of those situations in the past. With one company where the CEO was very visionary and he was very great at evangelizing the product.
And he was the founder?
Sorry?
He was the founder?
He was the founder and the CEO. But we knew that we could complement him and make kind of the commercial component of the business better. So we created a CRO role, and he would work alongside the CEO, and CEO would be able to focus on what he was good at, which is evangelizing. And initially, when we sent him the 3 candidates for interview, he called us and said, "You just introduced me to 3 CEOs. I'm a bit concerned." But at the moment, actually, whenever they go to conferences, they actually stay in one room. That's how much they kind of love each other. So I think it's all about complementing the CEO with the right side functions and enabling the CEO to be his best.
So to be clear, you don't advocate changing, you advocate augmenting.
We all advocate supplementing rather than replacing it.
Okay, we got it.
How
Patrick.
much do you interrupt into decision making?
So I think the best companies will be built with or without Notion, but we try to help as much as possible, but we only do it if the founders really want it. And we might point out certain things if we feel like something could be going a bit better or something could be done slightly differently, but the founders are always the end decision makers rather than us.
I have a gotcha question that Stephen
Good.
might
Make it
yell at me
short
for.
gotcha
from
question,
Notion.
please.
How do you calculate churn?
Well, it all depends on the individual company, right?
How do you calculate the standard churn?
Well, on the cohort basis, right?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Is that your answer?
Well, it's a gotcha question, I guess. But
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it all depends, right?
All right. Sure. Yeah.
All right,
Cool.
it's
Thanks,
done.
Camille.
Well done. Good job.
Okay.
Well done.
Stephen's gonna kill me.
Well done. Thanks. Good job. Well done. Right. Aha. And now for something completely different, as they used to say, a lovely Irish man called Philip. Are you here, Philip?
Thanks,
From
Chris.
Draper Esprit.
Hi, everyone. I'm Phil from Draper Esprit. We're a later stage European VC fund based in London. And we're hearing from a bunch of investors today. So I thought I'd just give you 2 examples of why Draper Esprit is a little bit different. So first of all, we are ourselves a public company, and that's unusual for a VC. Most VCs are private and have a GPLP structure. We're a PLC, we're listed on the London market. What that means is a couple of things. For portfolio companies, it means we invest for the long term. We're not tied into fund life cycles, and we don't have to sell down our holdings until the time is right. But for everyone else, it means we're democratizing the asset class. So you don't have to be a pension fund with billions under management to gain exposure to private high-growth technology companies. Anyone can buy and sell our shares. The other thing I'd like to talk about is the Draper Venture Network, and we see this as being a key differentiator of our fund from others you'll speak to. The Draper Venture Network was set up in 1990 by Tim Draper, who's a 3rd-generation VC. There aren't too many of those around. It's based out of Silicon Valley, but it's a truly global network. There are 25 funds in total. Whether it's San Francisco or Sydney, we've got a partner fund on the ground who can help you. More than that, though, we bring all of our portfolio companies to the Valley once a year for a week, and we put them in front of the corporate development teams of the largest software companies on the planet. And whether you're looking for customer wins or starting exit negotiations, that week can be hugely valuable to you and your business. So I said we're a European VC. We do about 50% of our deals in the UK, and the other half very dispersed across the rest of Europe. In terms of Estonian businesses, we're later stage investors in TransferWise, and we've also been an early stage investor in Realize. We invest across 4 key verticals, so enterprise software, wellness and digital health, hardware, which again is not something too many VCs are doing these days, and also consumer. There are a couple of portfolio companies here. You can see the likes of TransferWise, which I've mentioned, also UiPath and Revolut. So to put some numbers around all of this, I said we're a Series A and Series B fund. We write checks from about £5 million to £25 million for our initial check, and we like to write multiple checks into businesses that we back. We look to deploy about £100 million. Unfortunately, the exchange rate means that's only about $125 million these days each year, across about 12 deals. So aiming to do 1 deal a month, split pretty evenly across those Series A and Series B deals. So if you're looking for a growth stage investor who can help you take it to the next level, we'd absolutely love to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Fantastic. Good job.
Thank you. So you're also making investment decisions, or you're looking for the startups yourself? You go around, talk to startups, make the decisions yourself as well?
Yes, I mean,
Okay.
it's great to see talent, but I'm also here for deal flow.
Okay. Well, then I've seen some investors struggle to find the right investment objects, like, and there is a time frame when you actually need to invest all the cents, the last bits of your fund. So what is usually the strategy to speed up this process when you actually don't find any promising startups?
I mean, I think we truly are in an age of European tech, and I honestly don't think we're struggling to find good opportunities. The challenge is to figure out which opportunities within the cohort of great European teams we should back. I mean, look at Estonia. Like, there's amazing startups here that I've met over the past couple of days, and obviously some very well-known examples that we've talked about. I mean, I'll push back on the premise of the question. I don't think there is difficulty in finding great European teams to back.
What you personally and the company is doing to bringing more diversity, investing in more diverse founders like you? What is your own, philosophy or action plan in that one?
So we've worked with the BVCA, the British Venture Capital Association, on their diversity study. We work with diversity.vc. We have our female chairwoman. We've got 4 female investors on our investment team, but that's not enough, right? We need to do more. So one of the things we try and do is bring school kids, university kids into our fund at an early stage so they can pitch and understand what venture is. Because honestly, there's a little bit of education to being done about venture and startups being a career path that everyone can take.
Patrick.
What's one thing that your firm can offer that no other firm can offer? Like, what's your superpower?
It's tapping into people's passions, right? Whatever that is, right? If I think of Trustpilot, which is one of our startups that we backed, that was a company that had a bunch of term sheets in front of it. Founder of that company just happens to be a rocket enthusiast. And so we were able to bring him to Steve Jurvetson's house, and Steve happens to be a rocket enthusiast too. And so they were able to connect about these passions that they both shared. And that was honestly what set us apart in the founder's mind. The fit, the ability to go the extra mile to try and make it clear that we're in this for the long term and we want everyone to do well.
Great. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We now have Triin from Founders Factory, another VC from a founder of a yesteryear.
Hi, my name is Triin. I'm looking after investments in Founders Factory. In fact, we are actually not a VC. We are an investor, but we invest through an accelerator. We are based in London, and we now also opened up a hub in South Africa, and we are opening up in Paris as well. So Founders Factory was founded by Brent Hoberman and Henry Lane Fox. If you know Brent, or if you haven't heard of him, he started lastminute.com and exited for $1.1 billion by selling it to Fabre. Henry has been working with corporates for many, many years by advising them on digital transformation. And today we are backed by 8 corporate partners who are The Guardian, L'Oreal, Marks & Spencer, Aviva, EasyJet, CSC, Standard Bank, and Holdspring. So all these partners then invest into vertical focus programs. So we cover beauty, travel, AI, deep tech. We invest in fintech and insurtech, also in media and education and retail. So what do startups get from actually partnering with these corporates? Access to market insights, access to data, distribution channels through the pilots, and turning these pilots into enterprise contracts. And we actually go really deep into our corporates' problems and the pain points to be able to source relevant companies who can work with them. In the last 2.5 years, we have facilitated more than 100 pilots between our startups and corporates, and about more than 35% have actually turned into commercial pilots. And actually, we have about 6 companies, corporates who have invested in our startups as well. These investments are between 2 and 5 million. In total, we have helped our startups to raise more than 100 million in capital. We have today more than 10 companies in Series A and more than 22 companies in premium seed, and the rest of the companies have raised seed round. So what do you get when you come to the program? The program is 6 months long. The core value is that it's bespoke and you get access to 70 people on the ground. These are the people who are full-time employed by Founders Factory, so they're dedicated to work with you daily basis. These are marketing support, product development support, access to fundraising support, so we introduce you to investors, business development support, introductions to corporates. You also support you with hiring, and we have a very good PR and design team in-house as well. The deal is 3 to 7% of equity that we take from the startups against 250,000 divided into cash and services. So these are some of our success stories. I'm happy to share more. We have invested in 85 companies throughout these 2.5 years, and we are also building companies in-house. We have an incubator, and we are building 10 companies every year. I'm happy to share more information for you, and actually relevantly per sector that you are from. So thank you so much. And one more thing, we actually want to be the best partner for the founders, so we work very closely with our founders.
Perfect.
That's it.
Good job. Judges, Patrick.
So of the people that you turn down or just, you stop pursuing,
Yeah.
what percentage of them do you communicate with? And then how many, or how do you communicate with those folks?
You mean the startups that we don't take into the program?
That you don't take into the program, or that,
Yes, we actually, yes, we often turn down some startups, and sometimes we believe they're actually good companies, but they don't have the readiness to come to the program, and we don't have enough support to provide them at the stage they are at. So what we do is actually we do a lot of coaching. We actually keep an eye on them for 6 months. We do meetings with our operation teams. For example, if the product is weak side, we put them together with our product head of product, and then they start having like monthly meetings, for example. So we do sometimes that, but that's only in case when the startups, the founders are really good, and we believe that this could be a good business to invest in about 6 months' time.
So you have been an entrepreneur before, isn't it?
Yes.
So tell us, what has been your biggest entrepreneurial failure, and what did you learn, and what you can share now with founders?
You missed my previous talk at Startup Day a few years ago, where I talked about all these failures.
Many people, so go.
So the biggest failure, I would say, is not raising money on time. So we didn't take the external investment in year 1, where we had this opportunity, because we wanted to bootstrap, and we thought to invest our own money in. Year 3, we were not innovative enough anymore. We had a lot of competition on the market. We were not able to raise. And also, we had a very high churn rate, which was actually what ended our startup in the end of the day.
Was this the hardest moment for you in your career?
It was, because you put your life and your soul and 3.5 years in building this business, and it was very difficult.
What are the signs, what kind of relate to your own experience, what you see in the founders, and how do you advise them?
So I guess it's the hardest part for a lot of founders that come in solo is finding a co-founder and finding the right team that they complement each other with. So it's if you get a right team in place, I think you're able to bypass all these challenges on the way. And if you have an understanding with your co-founder, you are more stronger to actually pivot, to find the money and to support each other.
So just last question. So you're the second lady today on stage. What is your personal advice to the diverse founders? How to get actually investors like attention and meeting and investment? Like what is your experience and advice in that field?
First of all, make sure that you know you know your market, you know your product, you have done also research about the investors that you're pitching to, and go for investors who actually know your industry, who understand what you're building, who know what your product is about. It's all about investors who know the industry. If you are a hardware business and pitching into to a company or a VC or an accelerator who doesn't do hardware, doesn't know, doesn't have an experience, don't go there. The same is with fintech. If you're a fintech, don't go into a place or into a VC who doesn't know about it. So find investors who actually know what to do and make sure they have a capability to help you to scale, because don't take just any money, as they say, take the smart money, and this is so true, because you can only get as far with your first investment. You actually need to raise the next round.
Thank you, Triin. All right. I'm being told off because we're taking too long, so I'm going to do something really, really unfair, but it's completely my fault. You have 1 minute, 30 seconds. I'm sorry. Go.
My name is Mikko Kumpulainen and I'm from Volcano Ventures. We are a rather recent VC fund, so we actually had our first closing officially yesterday.
Hey!
With a bit more than 40 million, and our target is to raise another 10 million, so the hard cap is 50. We are a Finnish-based deep tech venture capital fund. We are very close to VTT, the research organization of technical research organization of Finland, and also working among the Finnish universities. What we are doing is that we are building teams from the science base. So we're helping them to recruit the CEOs and the commercial side to those founding teams. We help them to find co-investors. So we are investing from the very early stage, pre-seed, 200,000 investments up to initial investments in the A rounds of 2 million. And this is a different deck, but okay. It's not my presentation. Thanks. I don't know what is it.
All right, let's ask some questions. Yeah. I'm getting conflicting messages. We have half an hour apparently now, but anyway, let's ask some questions.
So we have a team of 3 people at the moment, and then we also have venture partners along us, so a team of 5 people looking for new investments. Our focus is on the deep tech, so there needs to be a deep science and research team behind the innovation. We are not looking for the mobile apps and pure software if there's not an IPR or patent involved. And as said, kind of team building, networking with the researchers. We can provide the kind of the network, the scientist background also for the R&D development. Through our...
Let's get some great questions.
What's something you're struggling with that you're still working on?
At the moment, we are trying to build our team. So we are recruiting two new partners and also the kind of a investment manager.
How about you personally?
In your business, you mean?
Just personally as a leader.
Well, at the moment, it's been... let's say it's been very hectic because there are so few resources. So we have still an old portfolio that we're managing, which is about 20 companies. And now we are also doing a lot of new deal flow generation, recruiting people, and then the fundraising. So you can imagine I've been quite busy recently. That has been the most problematic, not seeing my family.
Ooh. Yeah, so... Okay, family, that's pretty hard. So how to find the balance, and what's your advice for founders who have kids, who have family, who have, their own personal life? Do you suggest to go, 2 to 5 years working 100 hours per week, like Elon Musk, or what's your suggestion?
Yeah, I think I know this is a project now. I feel that hopefully, things will stabilize for me personally. So I started my career after graduating from the industrial management from technical university. So I worked over 4 years at BCG, and then I was dedicated. You know, I did work like 80 hours a week. So I didn't do anything other than kind of work. But then after that, I've been managing kind of my workflow. But I understand I like project work. So I like up and downs. I'm ready to work 100 hours a week, but then I need a break at some point. So I'm not looking for this steady 50 hours a week, more like achieving things and doing extra work, but then taking it sometimes with more relaxed.
So this is your suggestion for founders as well, like do it as project-wise, you know, just
yes, yeah,
fantastic.
Push it forward and then.
Fantastic, well done, great, thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's going to break your heart, but we are at our last one. So I would like to introduce Mikko from Volcano Ventures.
Oh, is that, wait, which one's?
Okay.
I think you said a different name though.
Oh, did I? I'm sure I got here.
Mikko, I'm not Mikko.
Okay.
So how do we go?
Just go on, just go.
Let's do it anyway, okay. Are those my slides now?
Who are you?
Yes, good. Okay, these are my slides that have been extensively covered, but anyways. So, hi, my name is Ilja. I work for Flashpoint Ventures. Some of you may have known us under our previous name, Buran Venture Capital. We have recently rebranded. But if you don't know us, so we are an early stage and growth stage venture capital firm investing across Central Eastern Europe. I'm personally based in Riga, Latvia, but we have a team of 13 professionals sitting across kind of key hubs in Central Eastern Europe. We invest, as I mentioned, in kind of early and growth stage companies. Currently, up to date, raised just over $100 million and invested in 21 companies and made 46 follow-on investments. So we're super active in following up with our companies and also actively exiting some of our earlier investments. Snapshot of our portfolio companies, hopefully some of those you recognize, like Shazam.com, for example, or, sorry, Shazam or Chess.com. Guesty, Amiad was actually presenting at this stage earlier today, I think. So our offering, we currently have 2 investment products that we offer. One is our traditional Series A equity investments of $1 to $5 million investing in SaaS, investing in marketplaces, e-coms, and IoTs. And along with our recent rebranding, we've also announced the launch of a new product, which is Venture Debt Fund, which we're aiming to invest in the same ticket range, however, looking for a little bit later stage companies where we want to top off the larger equity rounds with about 30% of venture debt, which is obviously virtually non-dilutive for founders and existing investors. Money aside, we're also obviously trying to help our customers develop and turn into larger organizations, and as part of that, we're obviously helping the companies, allowing them to leverage our network of experts, be that people in specific industries or specialist funds. We connect them to help with biz dev, and you can see like a number of initiatives that we're running. Also, we see our kind of speciality in helping companies with future liquidity events. One of those obviously being later stage fundraising and kind of focusing on the right-hand side of the slide. There are a number of kind of renowned later stage venture capital funds that had invested in our portfolio companies. We maintain relationships with these guys and again, are happy to connect our portfolio companies for further fundraising. And obviously, speaking of liquidity events for the founders, at some point there's a question about exits, and we believe that our DNA is actually in organizing exits process because all of the guys in the fund, especially the managing partners, come from an investment banking background and have done this a million times. So be that a rainy day scenario where a company hasn't performed as well as we'd expected, we handle the exit process and go all the way from kind of valuing the company to executing on the deal. Fantastic scenario, company performs really well. Offers are just flowing through. We'll help to organize them, build a competitive bidding process around it, and advise, especially first-time founders, on the whole process and guide them through it. Okay. And snapshot of our team.
Could we take some questions, please?
I think the debt fund is super cool. Under what circumstances should we raise 100% debt rather than taking on any equity funding?
I think that's a really good question, and I would argue that there probably isn't a reason to be raising 100% debt equity financing, because obviously, one, there's definitely benefit in raising money as equity, because as equity investors bring a lot of value, as we do in terms of business development and other efforts. Secondly, venture debt funding is usually structured in a way that it implies some sort of equity infusion in the company, because as an investor, you need to have some comfort in the company's kind of equity position and cash cushion. So I wouldn't say there's a reason to be raising pure debt. In terms of topping off an equity round with debt, I think it totally makes sense for both the founders and existing investors from a purely dilution perspective, but also kind of diversifying your investment base.
Right. So, looking at your background, you have been working in the finance industry all your life.
True.
Why did you choose being VC, and how you can understand founders if you've never been an entrepreneur?
That's a very good question again. So, as you said exactly, my kind of career began in financial services, and I've been doing different things. However, since childhood, I was actually quite passionate about technology, and it's always been a question whether to go into technology or join kind of the more lucrative finance sector, and initially chose to be in finance. However, I always wanted to try and somehow combine the two sectors together, and I thought venture capital is actually the place where you can both be investing and be in kind of the investment profession while retaining that connection with the technology sector. In terms of understanding the founders, I would agree that I need to go a long way to understand how the founders think and like the problems they face, since I haven't kind of experienced them myself. However, I also believe that having worked for like large corporates, I have seen both established technology companies as well as more kind of younger and up-and-coming companies trying to sell to these guys, and I had seen the successful ways of doing it. I had seen some difficult approaches, and I believe I can leverage that experience and kind of help founders build those kind of sales models and sales approaches. So I think I don't understand some of the founder things, but I can certainly share some of my own experience there as well.
That's great. Stay there. Could I have all the VCs come up on the stage, please? Just very quickly. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, two things. I'd like you, which you probably just already did, but could you do it again, please? Thank these amazing judges. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the new face of European venture. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great, thanks. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, thanks again. I actually wanted to ask a quick question from the jury. So what were your highlights on this pitching session? Can you say, Ragnar?
Yeah, I actually really loved Daisy, but she was showing this new approach, how to do investing and so on. So this presentation and her story and all the things, the values what she carried, I really loved it. You know, this was a highlight for me from this pitching.
Okay. Triin?
Yeah, I liked. Oh my God! What the second picture? I think. No. Okay, Bao. Yeah, because he was very passionate about when he talked about his experience and why he wants to be in this VC fund and what he can actually bring forward.
Patrick, you need a mic. Yep.
I actually really liked the last presentation and the last depth there, mainly because I think it just was like a soup to nuts approach in terms of like, hey, from the beginning all the way to like the grave, whether that's a successful exit or not successful exit. I think that's super helpful, especially when you're kind of at the end of the journey.
So thank you everybody, Chris, everybody on stage, and the jury.